He jumped with the goalkeeper and punched the ball into England's net with his fist. The referee allowed it, but 4 years earlier these two countries had sent young men to die over a few frozen islands in the South Atlantic. This was never just a football match. This is the story of the most explosive 90 minutes in World Cup history. Argentina against England, Mexico City, 1986. On the pitch, their two greatest players. Behind them, two nations that had just fought a real war and a wound that football was about to reopen. To understand it, go back to 1982. Argentina's military dictatorship invaded the Falkland Islands, a tiny British colony 8,000 miles from London. Britain refused to let them go and sent a fleet to take them back. A full war erupted at the bottom of the world. The fighting was brutal. A British submarine torpedoed the cruiser General Belgrano, and 323 Argentine sailors drowned in the freezing sea. It was the deadliest single moment of the war. Within weeks, Argentina surrendered, and nearly 1,000 young men were dead. For Argentina, it was a national humiliation. The generals who had promised glory were disgraced, the dictatorship collapsed, and an entire country carried its grief and its anger in silence. They had lost sons, ships, and pride, and there was no way to answer back. Not yet. 4 years later, the wound was still raw when fate stepped in. At the 1986 World Cup in Mexico, the draw threw the two nations together in the quarter-final. Argentina versus England. The press on both sides knew exactly what it meant. This was the war, replayed on grass. And Argentina had a weapon England could not match. Diego Maradona had risen from the dirt streets of Buenos Aires to become the best footballer alive. A small electric genius who carried the hopes of a broken nation on his shoulders. Before kickoff, both teams insisted it was only a game of football. Nobody believed them. Years later, Maradona admitted the truth. In his heart, every Argentine player walked onto that pitch to avenge the dead. The whistle blew, and for an hour nothing broke the deadlock. Then, in the 51st minute, it happened. Maradona chased a looping ball into the England box and leapt with the towering goalkeeper, Peter Shilton. He could never win it in the air, so he reached up with his left fist and punched the ball into the net. The England players erupted, pointing at his hand, but the referee had not seen it. He pointed to the centre circle. The goal stood. 1-0 for Argentina, scored by a fist in front of the entire world. Afterwards, reporters demanded to know if he had handled it. Maradona smiled and gave the line that would echo forever. The goal, he said, was scored a little by the head of Maradona, and a little by the hand of God. 4 minutes later, the same man silenced every argument. Maradona collected the ball in his own half, turned and ran. He beat one England player, then another, 60 yards through the whole team, before rounding the keeper and rolling it in. It was voted the greatest goal in the history of the World Cup. In just 4 minutes, Diego Maradona had scored the most cynical goal the tournament had ever seen. And then the most beautiful. The same feat. The same afternoon. England could not recover and lost 2-1. In Argentina, the country exploded with a joy that had nothing to do with sport. Strangers wept and embraced in the streets. For 90 minutes, a defeated nation had beaten the empire that sank its ships, and this time it had won. Argentina swept on to the final and lifted the World Cup, with Maradona its undisputed king. But it was that afternoon against England that the whole country would never forget. The day football gave them back what a war had taken away. Maradona became a god in Argentina, worshipped like no athlete before him. When he died in 2020, the nation stopped and mourned for days. And still both goals play on a loop, one the perfect crime, the other perfection itself. So no, it was never just a football match. It was a wounded country. 4 years after a war it could not win, reaching up with one hand to take its revenge in front of the world. 2 nations, 1 match, and a feud that will never truly end. That's The File, next time on The Feud Files.